The wind carried dust across the town like whispers that refused to die. Nobody noticed the woman at first. In a place where men watched strangers, the way wolves watched movement, she should have drawn attention immediately. But she didn't beg, didn't ask, didn't even move much. She simply stood beside the hitching rail outside the general store. Hands folded, eyes lowered beneath the brim of a worn hat. 3 days passed. In the Wild West, a person who stayed 3 days without speaking was either dangerous or broken. The town decided she was broken, and broken things were easier to ignore. On the 4th day, Ethan Hale rode in. The 2 horses he led behind him were worth more than most buildings in town. Tall black stallions, strong-necked, restless, not ranch animals but war-trained. Even before Ethan dismounted, every man on the street was watching, because men like Ethan Hale didn't ride into towns without a reason. His coat carried trail dust from weeks of travel. His jaw held the tight stillness of someone who had learned silence the hard way. A revolver hung low at his hip, worn smooth from use, not show. He tied the horses to the rail, right beside her. She didn't step away, didn't even look at him. That alone made him glance twice. Most people moved when a stranger with that kind of presence arrived. Fear had a smell in frontier towns, quick footsteps, lowered eyes, nervous hands. But she remained motionless. "Those horses kick," he said quietly, not looking directly at her. Her voice came soft and calm. "Only when they're afraid." Ethan turned. It was the first time anyone had heard her speak in 4 days. Her eyes weren't empty like people assumed. They were sharp, watching everything without seeming to. "You've been standing here 4 days, he said. "Yes." "You waiting for someone?" "No." He studied her clothes. Clean but old, carefully repaired, not ragged. Not a drifter. Not a beggar. Then why was no one claiming her? The saloon doors creaked open, and the sheriff stepped out, chewing tobacco. "Don't mind her," Sheriff Carter muttered to Ethan. Woman wandered in. "Doesn't say where from?" "Folks tried offering work. She won't take it." "Won't leave either." Ethan looked back at her. "Why stay where nobody wants you?" She finally lifted her gaze to his. "Because this is where I need to be." Something in her tone stopped further questions. He nodded once and led his horses toward the stable. But that night in the saloon, he heard the laughter. Men joked she was half mad, a ghost widow, a runaway, trouble. No one asked her, because nobody truly wanted the answer. Morning came with cold desert light. Ethan prepared to leave after trading supplies, but his black stallion refused to calm. The animal pulled hard against the reins, ears pinned. Then the woman approached, slowly. The entire street watched. She raised a hand, not touching, just hovering near the horse's face. The stallion stopped, completely. Men straightened, even the stable boy whispered, "Ain't never seen that horse obey anyone." Ethan stared at her. "You know horses." "Yes." "Where'd you learn?" "A long time ago." He hesitated, then surprised himself. "You need a ride out of here?" The sheriff scoffed. "You don't want that problem?" But she answered first. "No, I need to go where you're going." The words landed heavy. "I didn't say where I was going." "I know." Silence stretched across the street. Something cold slid down Ethan's spine. "Lady," he said carefully, "you don't know me." Her gaze held his. "Yes," she said quietly, "I do." He should have ridden away alone. Instead, an hour later, she rode behind him on the second horse. As they left the town under dozens of confused stares. For miles they said nothing. Only wind, only hooves. Finally he asked, "What's your name?" "Lena." "Just Lena." For now. He almost stopped the horse. Almost. But something in him, some instinct sharpened by years tracking men across deserts, told him answers would come only if he didn't push. They camped near dusk. She handled the fire like someone raised on the frontier, not protected from it. No hesitation, no wasted movement. "You ain't helpless," he said. "No." "Then why let them think you were?" She watched the flames. "People show their truth when they think you're nothing." He frowned. "And what truth were you looking for?" "You!" The word made his hand rest near his revolver before he realized it. "You been following me?" "Waiting," she corrected. The fire cracked between them. For the first time in years, Ethan Hale, the man bounty hunters avoided and outlaws feared, felt uncertainty creep in. "Why?" Her eyes met his across the firelight. "Because your past isn't finished." The air turned colder than the desert night. He stood slowly. "You better start explaining." But she only said, "Tomorrow." They reached the canyon pass at noon the next day, and that's when the riders appeared.
5 men on the ridge.
Rifles aimed. Ethan swore under his breath. He knew them. The Mercer gang. Men he'd hunted. Men who should have been gone. A shot cracked, hitting dirt near his horse. "Been a long time, Hale," one shouted. His hand moved for his gun, but Lena spoke calmly, almost bored. "They won't shoot yet." He glanced back. "You don't know that." "Yes," she said softly, "I do." And then she raised her voice. "You're late, Daniel Mercer." The leader froze. Every rifle lowered slightly. Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs. "Impossible," Mercer muttered. He stared at her like he'd seen the dead rise. Ethan looked between them. "You know her?" Mercer's face drained of color. "That ain't just some woman," he whispered. The desert fell silent, and Lena finally turned to Ethan. "I told you," she said gently. "Your past isn't finished." "Start talking," he demanded. Her eyes softened, not with fear, but with truth long carried. "I'm the reason they're alive." The words hit like gunfire. Years ago, Ethan Hale had tracked a wagon massacre blamed on the Mercer gang. He killed half the outlaws in revenge. The rest vanished. But one survivor had testified they were hired. He never found who hired them, until now. "I was their employer," she said. The world stopped. His revolver lifted halfway before he even knew he'd drawn it. "You murdered those families." "No," she said firmly. "I tried to stop it." He hesitated. "The man who ordered the massacre was my husband," she continued. "A railroad baron who wanted land cleared. I hired the gang to intimidate settlers, not kill them. When he changed the orders, I tried to warn the town." Her voice trembled for the first time. "I failed," Mercer shouted from the ridge. "She paid us to protect the wagons after." "Hale, she saved half the survivors you escorted out." Ethan's breathing slowed. Memories returned. A cloaked rider helping wounded escape during the chaos. Disappearing before dawn. "You," he whispered. She nodded. "I've spent years tracking you," she said. "Not for revenge, for truth. You've been hunting ghosts. I needed you to know who the real monster was." "Your husband." "He's alive," she said, "and building another line through settlements north of here." The gun lowered from Ethan's hand. Everything he'd carried, every year of rage, shifted. "You stood in that town," he realized slowly, "waiting for me." "Yes." "Why not just tell me?" "Because men like you only trust actions." Behind them, Mercer called, "We ain't your enemies, Hale. We want him dead too." The desert wind moved again. Ethan looked at Lena, not unwanted, not broken, but carrying years of guilt heavier than any outlaw's sin. "You could have run," he said. "I was done running." A long silence passed. Then Ethan holstered his gun. "All right," he said quietly. "We finish it." For the first time, her guarded expression broke. Relief, fragile and human. And in that moment, the silent woman no one wanted became the only person who could change his life. Because the revenge he'd lived for was never meant for the men he hunted. It was meant for the truth. And now he finally knew where to aim.